I didn't have to say anything. You got quiet. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Northeast State Presidential Search Advisory Committee's Q&A session here at Northeast State Community College. Just like yesterday, I am still Miles Burdine. I still work for the Kingsport Chamber, and I'm still a proud servant of the Tennessee Board of Regents and Northeast State Community College Foundation. And I've also been honored to chair the Search Advisory Committee that started in March and will be completed once the new president is seated and hopefully in September. I want to make a comment about the process itself. It was very fair, very organized, very focused on finding the absolute best possible candidates to serve as our next president. We're down to 4. This is day 3. We have one more tomorrow. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the structure of these sessions. We will begin by allowing the presidential candidate a few moments to give a brief introduction from a question that I will present. Following the introduction, I will ask a question received from the email submissions and then take a question from the live audience. I will continue to rotate in this manner, alternating from one email and one from the audience. Those who are in attendance online may submit a question via the chat function, and those will be posed as well. The Q&A session is scheduled for 1 hour. Our candidate will be able to ask to keep responses between 3 and 5 minutes to ensure we're able to ask as many questions as possible within our time frame. As a reminder, if you'd like to be recognized to ask a question, please indicate so by raising your hand, and microphone will be brought to you. We have one on both sides of the auditorium. Questions asked should be for the intention of gaining a better understanding as to the fit and ability of each candidate to be the next president at Northeast State. We thank you in advance for your respect and professionalism. With that, I am proud to introduce Dr. Jeff McCord. Dr. McCord currently serves as Commissioner for the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. Dr. McCord earned his doctorate degree in learning and leadership from the University of Chattanooga, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a Master of Business Administration and with a concentration in information systems from Kennesaw State University, and a Bachelor of Science degree in management from Georgia Institute of Technology. With that, Dr. McCord, Commissioner McCord, the first question is, thank you for your time and interest in the presidency of Northeast State Community College. Congratulations on being one of our finalists for this position. Please share with those in attendance, either in the room or virtually, why you feel you are the right candidate for this position.
Thank you, Miles, and it's good to see everybody again. It's good to be home. My name is Jeff McCord, and I do currently serve as the Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development. It's a great job. Get to impact lots of people, serve lots of people, big organization across the state. But it's always better to go to something than away from something. And the specialness and the impact that Northeast State has on the region is something I'd like to be a part of. I think I can bring a diversity of experience. I've walked in a lot of the shoes that our stakeholders have walked in, made relationships at the state level that I think will benefit the college. But more than that, I believe in its purpose. I believe it truly is designed and supposed to be a premier learning institution that prepares students for the rest of their life, or at least the part to find some prosperity, whether that be through work or whether that be going on to a 4-year institution. So that would be my first response, Miles.
Thank you. Dr. McCord, Commissioner McCord?
Jeff would be good.
Jeff
Yeah,
McCord.
Jeff would be good.
Please discuss your experience with shared governance at the community college level and how you see faculty and staff's role in that model.
Absolutely. So I have worked in the private sector, for state government, and at the community college and higher education. And the thing about it is no matter where you go, whether you call it participatory management, theory Y, or whatever the case may be. The simple fact is shared governance works. You're halfway through your change management if you include people in the decision than you would be if decisions were made in a vacuum. And so the reason why I have experienced these shared governance models outside of higher education is because they work. And it will continue to work at Northeast State. And it's just what I'm used to. It's what I'm used to in my current role, what I was used to actually at Northeast State, of course, and then obviously what I was used to in the private sector. And so, yes, it's very philosophical, but it's also very practical about shared governance.
Thank you, sir. Question from the audience.
Hello again, Dr. McCord.
Hi.
I'm going to go ahead and address the white elephant in the room and get it out of the way. We went through some rough years here at Northeast State, and you were here at that time as well. For many people sitting in this room, you are perceived as being an extension of the Dr. Gillum administration, whether that is correct or whether it isn't. And with that, that's going to be an obstacle that you will have to overcome if you become our president. So I'd like to know, what are some of your specific ideas as to how you're going to gain the respect and the trust of the individuals who have that opinion?
Absolutely. And fair question, because it's an observation of reality. And we had talked earlier in our meeting about that pretty forthrightly. But if it is an obstacle, it's an obstacle. Whether fair or not, it's an obstacle. And so we talked about this, the brother of trust is transparency. And I will need to spend a lot of time with faculty and staff to develop that trust and that transparency. I think it's interesting as I talk to people, because it's surprising to me, to be quite frank with you. The people I actually worked with, don't have that concern. And so what I would say is I'm confident that if we work together, you'll see that I can be trusted and overcome the obstacles and bring a level of ability that I think is going to be really helpful to the college. So don't mind that question at all. I appreciate the question, but it's gone. And I would be happy. Part of the reason there's not much narrative from me around it because it would have hurt the college. And so if we want to talk offline, we can talk more in depth about that, but there's ground to be plowed, and I understand that.
Thank you. Next question was previously submitted also. Where do you see Northeast State's trajectory over the next 5 years as it pertains to the importance of both technical and transfer education?
So the good thing is we're good at both, and building on strengths is what a successful organization, whether it be education or non-education, does. Certainly you want to limit your weakness, but you want to build on your strength. And I got the question that we're worried about transfer education not being a part of the plan. Why would it not? It's a strength. It is actually my bent as a person to know the importance of that liberal arts, general studies education, transfer education. We're here to make our students successful. And if they want to go to on with school at a four-year institution, that's what we need to offer them. If they want to go into the workforce, we need to make sure that they're the best prepared in the workforce, just like they would be the best prepared in transfer institutions. So they're strengths, both of them are strengths, and we're in the unique position. We're not a TCAT, we're not a four-year university. We're in the unique position of being able to do both of those things and promote both of those things for the success of our students.
Thank you. Back to the audience. Nathan.
Jeff, one of the problems that we have in our community is the very low participation rate in the labor force. What can Northeast State, what can you do to help try to pull some of those people back into the labor force and get them ready for jobs in our community?
Thank you for that question, Dave. We had a lot of conversation about that in the interviews today. I think they started a week ago, if you want to know the truth, but a lot of conversation. And so when we talk about premier learning institution with the best prepared students, what does that word student mean? And let me give you some numbers. There are 7,000 to 8,000 juniors and seniors in high school right now. And ETSU is competing for them. We're competing for them. Milligan's competing for them. TCAT's competing for them. All these schools are competing for them. There are 50,000 people, or over 50,000 without a high school diploma. Those are our students. Those are our students to pull in. There are 40,000 people on public assistance of some sort. Those are our students. There are 8,000, as many, as bad as this sounds, as many incarcerated as there are juniors and seniors who can be our students. There are 200,000 people who go to work every day or are employed. We have a concern across higher ed that demographics are getting us and we're going to have to shrink. I would say depends on how we define that student and where we go to find that student. And again, we don't have to do it ourselves. We have people, hands and feet, organizations serving those students who should be our students every day. They're funded. You think about First Tennessee Development District, you think about churches, you think about all kinds of organizations who work with the folks who should be our students, should be in the workforce and center their lives with a good job, which has health outcomes, prosperity around it, that we can be a part of that in partnership with the folks who are actually already serving them. And so it's a major effort at the state level. And I believe I know, I can see it, that Northeast State can be a major part of that in the region.
We have a question submitted via.
So you have a comment followed by a question from a community member.
Okay.
It says, I've had a few instances where I've tried to reach a department or to get assistance or information and tried calling every person in that department with no answer. I later found out they were working from home and had no direct way to reach them beyond email. If you're selected as the next president, would you end the work at home practice so people are more available when we need them?
Okay, so there's two separate problems there, or two separate issues. One is you can't get in touch with somebody, and one is that they're working from home. Those are two things, different things. My philosophy on being able to work from home is it's a benefit to employees. It's a retention benefit, it's a recruitment benefit. At the state of Tennessee, we leverage that. You can imagine Nashville traffic and not having to drive in Nashville traffic if I can work from home. However, we have to have the systems in place that you're doing your job. There's a lot of jobs that we know after the pandemic, you do not have to be physically present. There are a lot of jobs that you do. And so parsing that is part of what I imagine has happened and will continue to happen. But it's a retention device and recruitment device for the college.
Very good. Here's another one previously submitted. From your experiences, how do you feel Northeast State should best determine its ratio of online to on-ground learning moving forward?
So let me answer that detailed. I don't know. I'll have to ask and research and talk to faculty and staff about what that looks like, what we've experienced. I know now that we have about 50-50 ratio. And that 50-50 ratio may be right, may not be right going forward after the pandemic. But meeting students where they are is a big part of online learning. However, you miss the community, you miss the wraparound services and that sort of thing. So I would advocate that, again, the people who provide services to folks out in the community get involved and understand what we're trying to do with those. I would want to know the numbers on retention and online, and also the numbers on competency gained on online as well. I know that we have, and finally, I'll say this, if Northeast State is going to really push online, we need to be the best at it. We need to be the very best and understand what tools faculty and staff need to make sure that that happens.
Thank you, sir. Back to the audience.
Dr. McCord, let me first thank you for your service for the state of Tennessee as Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development.
Thank you, sir.
My question is, there's been a lot of discussion concerning how we will articulate with the TCATs in the state of Tennessee. And my question to you would be, what criteria would you use to determine if the credit received at the TCAT matches the credit that we offer here at Northeast State Community College? Or would you be willing to substitute credit for credit?
So two things. First thing is, it doesn't make a lot of sense that two schools in the same system don't have strong articulation agreements. A lot of that's about relationship and making sure that we know what we know. But I will be very interested in knowing how and why, and if not, those articulation agreements could work with the TCAT. Because even though they're not our students, they're students, and there's a concept of no destination without connection. And if I'm finishing up at a TCAT, I need to have a connection, if at all possible, so that I can continue to educate myself and move on. And so if we remind ourselves that the purpose is the student, hard work to be done. I think I was told we have 7 statewide articulation agreements. But one of my first visits would be to Dr. Hicks at TCAT Elizabethton to start forming that relationship and start talking about what are the barriers we have on his side, and then come back and talk about that on our side and see if we couldn't find more than 7 that allowed to do that. I know we got clock time versus credit hour and that sort of thing, but it's worth pursuing to figure it out because it'll help the students.
Thank you. Another question previously submitted. Will you discuss ideas for positioning Northeast State to recruit and train a talented and diverse workforce? Can you provide an example of something you've done in the past?
Yeah, so before the pandemic, we talked about the skills gap. And after the pandemic, we have the skills gap and we have the people gap. And so we have them both. And so to the point made earlier, part of what needs to happen is more people get involved in the economy, more people get involved in work, and all the good things that happen from that and all the bad things that don't. So one of the things that we've seen, Tennessee announced being the first apprenticeship for teachers in the country. What has begun to happen, Clarksville's a little bit farther ahead, is that diversity of the teacher pool has grown. So those populations that maybe not been addressed are starting to grow. And it's very encouraging to see that. That apprenticeship program allows somebody who's currently maybe in, as a secretary or whatever the case may be in a school, have a pathway to become a teacher. And that access that allows more people to participate, increases workforce participation, and just the right thing to do. So I would offer that. And by the way, when I went to Nashville, Tennessee, I just took the apprenticeship program that was developed at Northeast State, and we modeled it across the state after the one that's at Northeast State.
Back to the audience.
Hi, Dr. McCord. To go along with that last question, how would you encourage professional development and higher degree attainment for our current faculty and staff?
Staff development, faculty development is part of retention and part of growing a good and strong organization. We had a conversation before that I'm much more a developer in organizations than I am a bring somebody in or a person. That's not my philosophy. My philosophy is to grow your own. And yes, a faculty or staff member needs to see their path to get better. And with that, the student's experience gets better, the college gets better, and that person gets better. And by the way, that investment returns not only on better performance, better teaching, it also returns on not having to replace that person because they're committed to the institution. So I'm a developer. And so very keen on understanding what Northeast State does right now and then what's possible in the future.
Thank you. Jeff, I've heard several people comment to me that other than the governor of the great state of Tennessee, your job was perhaps the most difficult over the last few years. Can you tell me what that is, how that is going to help you if you become the president of Northeast State Community College?
Absolutely. So just a little flavor there. Part of labor and workforce development is unemployment insurance. And all of a sudden, 1 million people were unemployed. Systems were crashing. We had 20 people available to answer the phones. I had people going to the hospital for stress. I had somebody faint at the dinner table. It was not very fun. But we had to get through it and work through it. And it was an environment where the press coverage was not exactly positive. So a couple of things. One of the things that I did during that time is I did the press conferences. I was the face, and it good, bad, or indifferent. I worried for the physical safety of my folks. They made me come in the back door because of that. So all that, thank goodness, is not there yet. What it allowed me to do is learn in a environment of complete uncertainty, how to navigate and how to stay calm and how to still plan through that and to take your wins and to see where you need to go next. I think it's not quite as dire, but in higher ed with enrollment cliffs and all that stuff that we hear, the demise of higher education institutions, it's akin to working through a situation and staying calm and staying confident and soliciting ideas from the organization in a way that you can move forward and be successful through that environment. So yes, I learned a lot. It felt like it was 2 decades over that 2 years. I'm proud that none of my unemployment insurance leadership team quit. It became very clear that I needed to be the chief encourager to make sure that we got through it. We actually went from 22 people answering the phone to 700 people answering the phone in 8 months. And so what we talk about now, and I think as we navigate through the higher education kind of tumult that we have, conundrum that we have, is that that when we get to the other side of it, we'll know a lot more. So our phrase at Department of Labor and Workforce Development is we did something absolutely impossible. So now what's possible? And I think we're in a similar situation, hopefully not as dire. Hopefully Rick won't have the hostile press conferences or anything like that, but that was a good learning of how to stay calm and find your way through a difficult situation.
Thank you. Back to the audience. Oh, I'm sorry, we got a chat question. Let's do it real quick.
You have a comment and a question from a faculty member. It said, I have a strong passion for visiting local high schools and other recruiting venues and sharing my story of Northeast State. As president, how would you encourage other faculty to become involved in this practice to help increase our numbers and change people's lives?
So first of all, the value in that is enormous. Faculty have the passion. They're the place where the magic happens in the classroom. They know, they have the relationship. So the value of that's tremendous. And I would say too, and we had this conversation a little bit earlier, not just in high schools, but to adult education classes, to businesses, to wherever we go to find students. Now, to encourage is, I mean, they're busy, they're teaching. And so we'd have to find a model to make that happen. I think though, the context you get across the college from going and making those stakeholder visits, it's good for everybody. It just gives you a greater picture, a more whole picture of what's going on, plus the benefit of having the faculty stand up and be passionate and encourage people to continue their education.
Is it? Thank you. Back to the audience.
Jeff, first of all, I want to say thank you because you had a great impact on my life. And anybody that ever gets to work with Jeff, you'll know what I'm talking about. but you are a huge part of starting the apprenticeship program here at the college. And I'm always so proud to tell our industry partners that we were the first community college to offer that across the whole state. One of the things that we're doing currently, we have about 11, 12 companies and more knocking on our door wanting to get in our programs. We're also involved in the high schools now with pre-apprenticeship programs, which is a good way to make that segue into the high schools and talk about Northeast State and what we do and how we can promote, the college. What would you do as president to continue the support of apprenticeship programs?
So just like general studies, apprenticeship is a strength. And so to build upon that strength, both process-wise, partner-wise, and would have to see fiscally wise to make sure, because it is, guys, your college is unique, not only in the state of Tennessee, but across the country, and things that are going on with apprenticeship and solving this people and this skills gap at the same time and giving access. I can't overemphasize that a lot, access to people who might not have access to have a path of skill development and education at the same time. And of course, with those apprenticeship programs too, the mantra still applies. No destination without connection. So there's a lot of connections that can be made from that to other education. So I don't have anything specifically, Cindy, but in looking across the college from my vantage point right now, that certainly is a strength. And so we'd want to build upon those strengths as we move forward.
You want to post? Okay. Jeff, I ran into you at Hibbert Davis Coffee Shop downtown Kingsport several months ago. And I was concerned about, I expressed my concerns about some of the things Kingsport, not just Kingsport, the whole region was experiencing, and with lack of students, lack of dedication, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, what are you going to do about it? And you said to me, if they can read by third grade and earn a paycheck by age 16, they're going to be okay. What do you mean by that?
So it's important to not just read at the third grade level, but by the third grade
Right.
level, read on third grade level and have a work experience when you're 16. If you look at the data, everything gets better. The passionate piece of me, and this is not, we're not K-12, but we sentence children in third grade to what their life is probably going to be like if they can't read at the third grade level. The split between those people, those children, and what the good happens to one group and the bad happens to the other group, that's wrong. From a workforce development standpoint, it's wrong too. And from a college post-secondary, it's wrong too, because they can't progress, and who knows where they end up. A lot of times it's not good. A work experience by age 16, I've seen it across the state. If you have a work experience, work-based learning or something in high school, your grades go up on all the other classes. Your commitment and your maturity level increases, and it's happening right now across the state. And so a lot of good things happen, a lot of bad things don't. If you can read at third grade level, and if you have some sort of work experience, so you get that social interaction and move forward, and that spring in your step that comes from doing a good job and that sort of thing. And so those are, if I was telling somebody earlier that I was going to nerd out, because I used to be a Six Sigma black belt, and you always look for the variables with the most impact. And those two variables have the most impact on the education of our people in our state.
Thank you. You clarified for me. Back to the audience.
Hi, Dr. McCord. I'd just like to know what role you think grants and external funding would play in support of the institutional mission, and what specific experience you have that informs that perspective.
So say that for me one more time. I missed what will?
What role should grants and external funding play in supporting the institutional mission?
So thank you for that question. I wonder where it comes from. One of the things that you get to do with a grant, you get to try stuff without spending your own money. I know there's a lot of rules that come with those grants. Try stuff and invest in the very best avenue for a grant is you try something, it works, and basically you have startup money, and then it becomes sustainable after the startup money. And you hit it right and you go. So that is a huge part. It will also, they can also help supplement money, operational money that we're spending somewhere to help grow. Well, maybe it does. Some of them do anyway. To grow at a faster rate, you cannot operate a community college without strong grant presence. And we have a strong grant presence. So congratulations on that. The flip side of that coin is you can't rely on grants for operational and for sustained efforts, because you have to start all the time at the very least. You have to stop and you have to start because the grant ends, and then you got to get other folks. And it's really, so actually the Office of Apprenticeship, which was established a few years ago at State of Tennessee, they were operating off grants. So we finally got off grants so that we could have a sustainable way to do, but we wouldn't have gotten started without the grants. And so that's how I see grants playing a role. It's more one-time or short-time expenditures until we see whether or not it's fiscally able to continue.
Thank you. Picture this room full of high school students, and you're trying to recruit them to come to Northeast State Community College and go beyond and be successful. What would you say to them?
I'd say you, as you look around your options, as you look around not just in Northeast Tennessee, but the state of Tennessee, if you want somebody who will help you and care about you and teach you something you need for the rest of your life, or to at least get you going with the next part of your life, you should come to Northeast State, because there is no a better match than Northeast State. There's no community college in general, but I would say Northeast State in particular, that you have that caring environment, that encouraging environment. And I know a lot of students show up with a lack of confidence. You'll leave with confidence if you persist. That's what I would tell them, and I would tell their mamas too, and their daddies as well, so that that value, the value that this college brings is so much more than just what is learned. I know you can't quantify that, but it's true nonetheless that the value that the faculty and staff invest in students, and you guys know this, it's life-changing. So anyway, that's what I would propose to that high school students.
Thank you. We have a chat.
This is in reference to the multiple campuses of Northeast State. What's your perspective on making all campuses cohesive so that all employees feel valued?
So that is a great question, being an off-campus guy. And when we were here, we used to say Kingsport campus is the main campus. You know, we kind of got an attitude about it. But yeah, it's different environments. And so this is one of the most beautiful campuses in the state. We can't replicate that. I would say, though, that the campuses that, when I'm thinking through them, have personalities and have abilities and need to be valued as they go through. And those campuses are actually in the community as well. And so we'd have to, it's more of a, what do you need, campus by campus than an overall, but you can't replicate the main campus everywhere. You just can't, and you don't really need to. And so that's what I would say. However, the value that is given to off-campus folks, it should be the same value that we have on the main campus.
Thank you. Back to the audience.
My question, I have two questions. The first is, with your travels and around the state with workforce development, what ideas would you bring to Northeast State for new programs that we need to start here? The second question is, you mentioned being the face of the workforce development as commissioner. What would you perceive your role to be here as the face of Northeast State, and what benefits would you bring to Northeast State as the face of the
Okay.
school?
Thank you. And so to clarify, I much prefer being the face of workforce development for the state than the face of unemployment insurance, that's for sure. And so we had that question, what programs did I see that we need to bring here? You know that better than me. I have some ideas, but I haven't been here for 4 years. I know that the new EV program is getting off the ground, and my question was in the meeting that we had, does that make sense for us? The state's going to go EV. We know that, but are we serving our region by that? And then I was informed that it's really for repairs, EV repairs. And trust me, guys, the EVs they're coming. So if you want an internal combustion engine, go ahead and buy one soon. And so that makes a lot of sense for our region. I have seen a lot of innovative at the K-12 level, work-based learning at the K-12 level and that sort of thing. I don't know enough yet to say what programs Northeast State needs. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of ideas to walk through with faculty and staff, and a lot of stakeholders that we need to talk to. I think EV is great. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially repair. That would be the next go round. But sometimes you don't need something new. You just need to do more of what you're currently doing or figure out a way to do better what you're currently doing. And I really think the alignment that this college has with the jobs out there is strong. At least I don't see from the outside looking in any glaring gaps. Second, so yes, my job as president advocate, it is to remove or to create an environment or help to create an environment where people in the organization can be successful. We talked a little bit earlier about in a climate of fear, you can't make any progress. You just hunker down, you can't make any progress. Some of the things that did in Kingsport was, I think, mostly because people were allowed to do them. I say this more than one time that there's a lot of great ideas. Apprenticeship program was one. We did food trucks. We built a academy for, so that K-12 could come in. We built a park right there. 0 of those were my ideas. Absolutely none. But I think we created an environment where people were allowed to have those ideas and advocate for those ideas. And so advocate and chief promoter and defender maybe of some for the college, but also really working on helping to create an environment to where we feel good about coming to work, allowed to have ideas and talk to each other. And you really get that starting with just respect. And then you get that with actually knowing somebody and spending time with them. And so I think that will be, especially at the beginning, what I will do.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience?
Hi, I have a question regarding extracurricular activities. So in your opinion, what is the role and significance of extracurriculars, like student organizations, not necessarily academic ones, but, like student clubs and other programming that goes on beyond the classroom, role and significance of those?
So yes, retention is huge in that piece. You form a community, you go through something together as opposed to apart. What's that proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And our students have to go far. And so that community, plus it gives you something to rally around, something to cheer for, an identity as an institution, something to connect to. So yes, I understand the esports team is off and running, and that's a great example of something to rally around, engage in, get to know people outside the classroom, care about them, in ways to move forward in the retention. So yes, the extracurriculars are all those things, and they really impact and I think they impact the ability to persist and finish, and the quality of life on the campus itself.
Hi,
Hi.
I know that you've heard about this controversy, so I wanted to ask your opinion. That recently, Mr. Arn, who works for Governor Lee, made these statements. The teachers are trained in the dumbest parts of the dumbest colleges in the country. You will see how education destroys generations of people. It's devastating. It's like the plague. And a final statement that he made, here's a key thing that we're going to try to do. We are going to try to demonstrate that you don't have to be an expert to educate a child, because basically anybody can do it. You currently work for the governor and are now seeking a position in education. I was wondering how you respond to these statements.
So I don't know Mr. Arn, but I don't agree with the statements. Educators, teachers, and I'll use educators, are hugely valuable and even transformational. So no, I do not agree with that statement. So I'll leave it at that. That is not, again, I don't know Mr. Arn, never met him, never seen him before, but no, not a statement that is factual.
Thank you. Any others from the audience right now?
So, hi, Jeff. Thank
Hi.
you for being here. I want to thank you too for all that you did while I was working at the KC. I reiterate what Cindy said, that you were a great supporter, and that what you said about allowing people to make decisions and do what you were very supportive always. But I have two questions, and one is about security. So all of us here, you know, we see the school shootings and it's terrifying. What would you do in this school to ramp up our security? That's one question.
Okay.
The second question is, when you leave, looking with the end in mind, what would you like to see as your legacy? If you were to be president here at Northeast State, what would you like for your legacy to be?
Let me do the first one first. I was asked in the first round of interviews what worried me the most when in Kingsport, and it was safety. We all deserve to be safe. The students deserve to be safe. We're going to have to, one of the very first things I'd want to do is, what is our safety plan? What are the officers? We are able to get more security in Kingsport through some advocacy. And yes, there's no reason. Safety and security is a baseline of what we need to do. And so in order for people to even come here. It's scary though. I mean, it's really, really scary. And so we can't give in to the fear, but we have to make sure we're smart about that as well. I'll have to tell you, I hate the legacy question. I really do. I don't think about that. The answer I gave earlier today was that when I left Kingsport, it was emotional, both from the people that were in there, the good pie party, and from me as well. There was a depth of that we had done some good things, that wasn't always easy, but we respected and cared for each other. I had a consultant tell me recently, they came back into the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and they were dreading it because they had been there 6 years before, and people were beaten down. And they said, and they caught me when I was leaving, and they said, So they did not want to go. So a new engagement, and they said people are filled with purpose. They want to be paid more, but they're filled with purpose, and they know where they're going and what they're doing. So if there's a legacy, that would be the legacy. So you leave an organization empowered. And I think, I know I hesitate there, but I do have a track record of doing that with the organizations that I'm involved in.
Thank you. Other questions out there? You're all on a roll.
So speaking of pay, we are currently in a very competitive job market right now, and it seems like most of our roles are exceptionally hard to fill roles. What strategies do you have so that we can actually compete in that job market?
So great question. And it's all over the state, and I have the same issues in my current role for certain. So I think, and when we talked about it earlier, we need to, first of all, articulate our total compensation, not just our salary, because our total compensation is, people in the private sector don't have the same benefits we do. And so that benefit piece of our salaries is strong. So the delta is not as much as we might think it is when you add that in. And also articulate the fact that what you do is valuable and rewarding beyond monetarily. And articulate that and there takes a certain kind of person with a certain kind of heart to do what you do. So that is of value to. It's a great way to spend your life, if not your money. With all that said, it's typical pipeline development. We need to develop and work, and maybe even communities that underserved communities, pipelines that we can bring folks in to be instructors. Probably starting in high school, just like we would advise a business to do. You get in a situation, I think, in organizations where you're doing all these services and then you don't turn them internally. And you're like the cobbler's son who has bad shoes. So I think there's a lot of expertise in this room to help us develop those kind of pipelines. The first step, though, is to develop that, talk in terms of total compensation and talk in terms of purpose in a way to spend your life.
And ma'am, Tennessee Board of Regents is also working on that very subject, and hopefully you'll see some changes coming soon. So, we have a chat question.
Dr. McCord, what are your personal gains in coming back to Northeast State? Why do you want to come back considering the job that you have?
Again, it's going to something and not away from something. I think we're at a point that there's no other college that I'm applying to. I think we're at a point where I can see context and I can see where Northeast State is positioned. And again, it's the way I'd like to spend my life, to serve that purpose alongside the folks in this room and do good for the people we're supposed to serve. And so I don't know about personal gains. I did get to sleep in my own bed last night, that's good. That's a personal gain. But this is where I'm from. And so to be able to help and bring whatever knowledge and skills I have to help the college continue to function and pursue its purpose is what I'd like to do.
Who else from out there in the audience, please?
Hello again. So to talk about those personal gains and coming back to Northeast State, first 100 days, what are your goals if you are selected as our president?
So a lot of conversation, a lot of visits, and a lot of introductions, both internally and externally, to make sure that I know the partnerships we had before, just to see where those are, and also to highlight and maybe build pathways to partnerships that I can see that a community college would really benefit that we haven't really paid attention to. Again, we get multiplier effects from nonprofits and agencies that are out there already doing this work. So it's not a lot of money we have to spend to do that, and we could get great return from that. So those relationships and connections. Then I understand there was some strategy work done. Want to definitely look at the strategy work. I'm not sure what that is, but why would we not? If people put their heart and souls into that strategy, how does it look? Is it still make sense to everybody? And then the next thing is to get fluent in the finances. When I move into a new role, it's people, finances, and process is the way I usually will go about it. So if I were to get the role, Chad and I would spend a lot of time together just to get an idea of where we were, because it's a lifeblood, and what challenges we face and what opportunities we face. So that would probably be the first 100 days or so.
Anybody else from out there? Great questions, guys.
Hi, Dr. McCord. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. So you talked a lot about interacting with our industry partners as well as faculty and staff, but how do you perceive the president's role in engaging with our students, not just on essentially like a once a semester basis, but on a daily basis and engaging with them?
So good. Thank you for that question. So I am a walking around guy a lot. And so I see myself interacting with students daily. Moving through the campus. I have people who work with me know I have a hard time sitting down. I mean, that's the mode in Kingsport when I was here. It's my mode at the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, is to get to know and talk and understand the experience. And also, at a community college, we get to see the personification of our purpose. I mean, we literally get to see the face of it in the students. And so talking about personal gains, that is certainly one that will put a spring in your step and hopefully help a little bit as well.
Hi. Currently, we're working on several plans that align around low-income students. Our quality assurance funding plan, action plan, our Achieving the Dream transformational change, quality enhancement plan, all of those things include a focus on low-income students. And part of that, my question to you is, you indicate there's a lot out in the community. We don't have to do it all by ourselves. And one of our ideas is we have internally kind of emergency student needs funding, to get somebody a gas card but it's all very temporary. And our research shows that really our students, we continually have a problem with retention because their lives get in the way. It's not that they can't do the coursework, but that their lives are so complicated. So I wonder if you have any ideas about how we might help our students. We discovered during HERF that the primary needs they had were around housing, transportation, and food. Do you have any ideas about what exists out in the community or on the state level that we might leverage to give our students more support so that they can put their education at the top?
I do. Department of Human Services, which is in the region, Department of Labor and Workforce Development, which has funding. We need to really shore up our relationship with First Tennessee Development District, who serve people all the time like that. If we're going to grow our student base, we need to do that. So yes, a lot of ideas there. And then we also need to look very closely, because you're right, the non-academic barriers you get is transportation, you get childcare, and you get food insecurity and housing. Okay, so maybe we can't solve all of those, but what can we solve in partnership? And the first one I would personally like to take a look at is childcare. And I mentioned this, so I apologize for people who were in there before, but I remember being here and we did a survey on childcare, and it came back that nobody needed childcare. Well, the people who need childcare aren't here. And so I think really pushing for that, and there's relationships and processes and funding from DHS Department of Human Services at the state level, that we really need to investigate so that we can at least take one of those life challenges away for our student. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I know there's an opportunity there that we might not just see from grant funding, just an ongoing piece that we might be able to form a relationship there. And I don't think there's any reason why American Job Center is not on campus, whether it be this campus or whether it be another campus, because those people coming in to get services for those are our students, are our potential students. And so to have that co-location, I think will be very helpful too. So there's a lot of things that we can do in partnership. Again, it seems daunting. I mean, we have this problem, but we're not in it alone. We've got a lot of partners trying to pull in the same direction, and I think we can center those partnerships.
Thank you, Dr. McCord, and audience. We have about 5 minutes left. Let's fill it up. I'll ask you one real quick, Jeff. If I were to call Governor Lee today and ask him what he thinks of his commissioner, what do you think? What would he say?
Well, during the pandemic, when he complimented me on UI, I got Twitter reversed. I told him not to compliment me anymore. So unemployment insurance. Sorry, I keep talking in acronyms. Calm, a centering force, stable, semi-irreverent in meetings. It's a good environment. And the thing that I have found in this role too is it's really nice to have opinions without context. It must be really nice because there's all kinds of things going on all the time that you just don't have time to explain. So I think he would. We did not know each other before this role. The governor went and picked people he thought would be good for cabinet roles. I don't think that's how it usually works. And so 23 commissioners, 20 of them or so did not know him. And so it's been a really good group. And I really think we've made some progress even with the pandemic. So yeah, I think it would be, I hope it would be positive. Why don't you let me call him before you do, if you do that.
We've got about 3 minutes left. Why don't we move on to closing comments?
I don't have many. I've got to go lay down after this because I'm really an introvert, and this has been quite the day. Hey, I just am honored to be here. I appreciate you hearing me, and appreciate you being here, whether it's physically or whether it's via the internet. And whatever happens, trust me, you know this already, but I've gotten to see other places. This is a special place. And so there's some things that are going to need to be navigated, but it's nothing that can't be navigated by this group of folks. So I wish you the best of luck and thank you.
Thank you. Quick closing statement before I do that, though. Yesterday I mentioned and want to emphasize again how much it is noticed by me personally and by others in the community, just how much you all care for this college. It is respected and appreciated, and your hearts are full of caring, wanting to take care of your students. And it's not only vital to that student, it's vital to our region, vital to our economy, vital to those who work here. So thank you once again. And closing statement, that brings us to the end of our presidential Q&A. I want to thank you for participating and taking an active role in choosing the next Northeast State Community College president. You are invited and you are encouraged to participate in a survey about each finalist as a means to give feedback. Chancellor Tidings has promised, and I know she will follow through on her promise to read every single review that you send. The link to the survey will be soon available on the webpage where you access the live stream. You can also go to Northeast State's website to access that link that will take you to the survey. Thank you for being here.